Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are putting on our fedoras, we are grabbing our bullwhips, and we are stepping into what is arguably the greatest treasure hunt in human history.
Oh, definitely.
We are talking about the Ark of the Covenant.
It's the ultimate mystery, isn't it? It's right at that intersection where, faith, history, and archaeology all just collide.
Exactly. And I think for most of us, myself included, our mental image of the Ark comes from one very specific place.
I think I know where you're going with this.
It's 1936. Indiana Jones is in the map room at Tanis. The sun hits the headpiece of the Staff of Ra, and that beam of light reveals the Well of Souls.
It's just iconic cinema. Raiders of the Lost Ark really defined how an entire generation sees archaeology.
You've got the face-melting spirits, the Nazi car chases, the snake pits, but, and I hate to be the buzzkill here right at the start, we have to do a little reality check.
We do.
Because if you strip away all the movie magic, you're left with a question that has haunted historians for 3,000 years. Where is the actual box?
And we have to correct the map immediately. As much as Raiders is a masterpiece, and it did win 5 Oscars, the archaeology was, let's just say, highly creative.
So you're telling me the Nazis weren't just digging in the wrong place because their staff was too long?
No, they were effectively digging in the wrong country. Historically, there's just zero evidence the Ark was ever at Tanis in Egypt.
And the Hitler obsession, invincibility.
That's great storytelling. But the actual path of the Ark is far more complex, and honestly, I think it's more interesting than the movie version.
That is a bold claim, considering the movie has exploding heads. But that is our mission today. We are going to trace the actual path of the Ark.
Look in the physical evidence.
And unpack the leading theories of where it might be right now. Is it in a church in Ethiopia? A cave in Jordan? Or is it sitting like 30 feet under Jerusalem?
We've got a stack of sources today. Biblical texts, rabbinical writings, all the way up to modern archaeological reports and journalistic investigations.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Before we can lose the Ark, we have to build it. We need to know what we're actually looking for.
Right.
Because in pop culture, it's basically a radio for talking to God that doubles as a weapon of mass destruction.
Which metaphorically isn't entirely wrong,
Yeah.
but physically, the sources, specifically the book of Exodus, are very precise. It wasn't magic, it was carpentry. It was a chest made of shittim wood.
Shittim wood? That's acacia, right?
Correct. The dense, thorny acacia that grows in the Sinai Desert. Incredibly durable. And the box was overlaid with pure gold, inside and out.
So a very fancy gold-plated box.
Yes. But the dimensions are what we really need to pay attention to here. This isn't random trivia. These numbers are going to be key to a major theory later on.
Okay, I'm listening. What are the numbers?
It was 2.5 cubits long by 1.5 cubits wide and 1.5 cubits high.
And a cubit is what? Like from your elbow to your fingertip? About 18 inches?
Roughly, yeah,
Yeah.
but 18 to 21 inches, depending on the standard. So if we translate that to modern measurements,
You're looking at a box that's about 52 inches long.
by 31 inches wide and high, or 131 by 79 centimeters.
So it's not some massive shipping container. It's about 4 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, sort of the size of a large coffee table.
Exactly. It was portable. That was the whole point. It housed the 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. But its function was to serve as the symbol of God's presence with the Israelites.
And this is where the weapon idea comes from, right? The miracles.
Right. The sources mention it parting the Jordan River and being marched around the walls of Jericho before they fell. So yes, the Israelites saw it as their heavy artillery in a spiritual sense.
So they enter the land of Israel, they stop wandering. Where does a golden box like that end up? It doesn't just stay in a tent forever, does it?
Well, actually, it kind of does, for a while. Which brings us to our first major stop, Shiloh.
Shiloh. Now, this is where the archaeology gets really cool, because for a long time, a lot of scholars said the tabernacle at Shiloh was just a later myth.
It was their religious capital for 369 years, according to the text. And recent excavations at Tel Shiloh, led by Dr. Scott Stripling, have uncovered something that completely changes the conversation. It's a real aha moment.
They found the building itself.
They found a monumental building from Iron Age's side. And the dimensions are striking. It's oriented east-west, standard for temples, but it has a 2-to-1 ratio.
Which matches the biblical description of the tabernacle.
Precisely. But the smoking gun, or maybe the smoking bone, was what they found around it.
Oh, right, the bones.
A massive deposit, over 100,000 of them. Sheep, goats, cattle.
That's a lot of barbecue.
It's a lot of sacrifices. But here's the detail that makes you just stop. A disproportionately high percentage of these bones were from the right side of the animal.
The right side. Why does that matter?
Because in the book of Leviticus chapter 7, the law says the right thigh or the right shoulder of the sacrificial animal is the priest's portion. It's what the priests get to eat.
Wait, are you serious? So 3,000 years later, we can look at a pile of leftovers and see they were following a specific religious dietary code.
Exactly. Finding a massive dump of right-side-only bones points to a site of priestly consumption on a huge scale. It aligns perfectly with the idea of a central tabernacle. The ark was almost certainly there.
That is just wild. It's like forensic analysis for a 3,000-year-old dinner. So the ark is in Shiloh, but then we get to the action sequence. The Israelites treat it like a lucky charm, take it into battle, and oops.
They lose. Badly. The Philistines capture the ark. This is a massive theological crisis for Israel. But for the Philistines, it turns into a horror movie.
The curse tour.
Essentially. They take it to Ashdod, put it in the temple of their god, Dagon, right next to the statue.
Yeah.
You know, our God beat your God.
And Dagon doesn't take it well.
Not at all. The next morning, the statue is face down on the floor. They prop him back up. The morning after that, Dagon is down again, but this time his head and his hands are cut off.
That is a very specific mafia-style message. No head to plan, no hands to act.
It gets worse. The people of Ashdod are struck with emerods. The King James Version is polite, but modern translations point to tumors in the groin area.
So, hemorrhoids.
Or something worse.
Painful swellings, yeah. Likely bubonic plague or something similar. So the Philistines start playing hot potato with it. They ship it to Gath. The plague follows. They ship it to Ekron. Same thing. Finally, they've had enough.
And this is the part of the story that always sounded so strange. The cow test.
It's a test to see if this is all just coincidence or divine anger. It's actually a kind of primitive scientific control. They take 2 milk cows who've just had calves.
Right, and they lock the calves up at home.
Exactly. Then they hitch the mama cows to a cart with the ark and just let them go. Nature says those cows should run right back to their babies.
Biology 101.
But the sources say the cows walked straight down the road to the Israelite town of Beth Shemesh, lowing as they went, crying for their babies, but they didn't stop. They delivered the ark back.
But the tragedy isn't over. The men of Beth Shemesh make a fatal mistake. They treat it like a curiosity. They look inside the ark.
A big no-no.
A huge one. The text says a massive number were struck down. Some manuscripts say over 50,000. Those scholars think that's likely a translation error, maybe closer to 70. But the point stands. The ark isn't a toy.
It's dangerous holiness. So it goes to Kiriath-Jearim, then David dances it into Jerusalem, and finally Solomon builds the first temple, and it goes in the Holy of Holies, home sweet home.
For a few centuries, yes.
And this is where the mystery really kicks in, because if you go to Jerusalem today, there is no ark. It's gone. When did it disappear?
That's the multi-million-dollar question. The last clear biblical mention is in 2 Chronicles 35, during the reign of King Josiah, around 622 BC. Josiah tells the Levites to put the ark back in the temple.
Okay, so it's there in 622 BC, but then the Babylonians come and destroy Jerusalem in 587 BC.
Right. Nebuchadnezzar levels the city. And the Babylonians were very thorough bureaucrats. We have lists of the loot they took. They list the spoons, the basins, the pillars.
But no ark.
No ark on the list.
So it wasn't taken to Babylon.
It doesn't appear so. And we know for a fact it wasn't in the second temple, the one Herod renovated, the one Jesus visited. When the high priest went into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, the room was empty. He just sprinkled blood on the floor where the ark should have been.
Wow. An empty room at the center of the faith. So if it wasn't taken and it wasn't there later, it must have been hidden. Which brings us to the most compelling theory, the Temple Mount theory.
This is where we look at the work of Leon Rittmeyer. He's an architectural archaeologist, probably the world's leading expert on the Temple Mount.
And he didn't need to dig, right? He just had to look really, really closely at the rock that's already there.
The Esakra, the famous rock under the Dome of the Rock. Rittmeyer reconstructed the exact position of the original Holy of Holies, and he identified something that everyone had overlooked.
A cutout.
Yes. In the exact center of where the Holy of Holies would have been, there is a rectangular depression cut into the bedrock.
And let me guess. The dimensions?
4 feet 4 inches by 2 feet 7 inches.
Wait, hold on. The ark was roughly 4 feet by 2.5 feet.
It matches the dimensions almost exactly, allowing for a little clearance. Rittmeyer argues this was a leveling basin where the ark sat, so it wouldn't wobble on the uneven rock.
That gives me chills. So we know the exact spot it sat, but he thinks it's still there.
Not on the surface, but under it. The theory is that Solomon, or maybe Josiah later, constructed a secret chamber deep inside the Temple Mount, for this exact scenario, a siege.
And this isn't just fantasy. In 1981, some people actually tried to find it. This story is incredible.
It really is. In 1981, Rabbi Yehuda Getz, who was the rabbi of the Western Wall, secretly broke through a sealed archway in the tunnels under the Temple Mount.
Secretly. For 18 months, under the most politically sensitive square mile on Earth.
Yes, at night. Rabbi Getz claimed they were getting very close to a chamber that matched the descriptions of the hiding place. He believed he was days away.
But they were stopped.
A leak. The press found out, the story broke, and it caused an immediate diplomatic crisis. The Temple Mount is under the authority of the Waqf, the Muslim Religious Trust.
Of course.
The idea of rabbis digging under the Dome of the Rock almost triggered a riot. The Israeli government stepped in, sent police down, stopped the digging, and sealed the tunnel with reinforced concrete.
So they were stopped just feet away.
That's what Rabbi Getz went to his grave believing. We'll never know for sure. That concrete wall is still there.
What a cliffhanger. Okay, so that's the Jerusalem theory. Buried deep behind a concrete wall. But there's another massive claim. You guys are looking in the wrong country. It's in Ethiopia.
This is the claim of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. They are adamant the Ark is in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum.
And this ties back to the Queen of Sheba.
The legend is in the Kibra Negest, their national epic. He says the Queen of Sheba visited Solomon. They had a son named Menelik, and when Menelik grew up, he visited his dad in Jerusalem.
And he took a souvenir when he left?
A big one. The story goes that the firstborn sons of the Israelite elders who were with Menelik stole the real Ark and left a wooden forgery in Jerusalem.
The old switcheroo.
Exactly. And they say it's been there ever since, guarded by a single monk who's the only person alive to see it.
It's a great story. It's very romantic. But does it hold up?
There are significant problems. First, the chronology. Menelik would have lived around 950 BC. But, as we just said, the Bible mentions the Ark is still in Jerusalem in the time of Josiah, around 622 BC.
So Josiah is telling the priests to put the Ark in the temple 300 years after Menelik supposedly stole it.
Right. Unless Josiah was looking at a forgery for 3 centuries without anyone noticing, the math just doesn't work.
But has anyone actually seen the thing in Ethiopia? I feel like I read about someone getting in.
Actually, yes. And this is a detail that often gets left out. During World War II in 1941, an officer in the British Army named Edward Ollendorff was stationed there. But in civilian life, he was a professor of Semitic languages at Oxford.
So he could talk his way in.
He spoke classical Ge'ez, the liturgical language. He convinced the guards to let him into the sanctuary.
What did he see?
He saw a wooden box. But he was very clear. He described it as a middle to late medieval construction. It was empty. He stated quite clearly that while it was a deeply venerated object, it was definitely not the ancient Ark.
So it's likely a replica, a very important one, but still a replica.
Exactly. Ethiopia has a tradition of tablets, which are replicas of the Ark used in worship. Ollendorff believed this was simply the oldest, most sacred replica, but the mystery is maintained to keep the reverence alive.
That makes a lot of sense. So what about the other theories? I've heard about a cave in Jordan.
That comes from the book of 2 Maccabees. It says the prophet Jeremiah, seeing destruction coming, took the tent of meeting and the ark to Mount Nebo, the mountain where Moses saw the promised land.
And he hid it in a cave.
Sealed it in a cave and prophesied the location would remain unknown until God gathers his people.
It's very poetic. Has anyone looked?
Oh, plenty of people. But Mount Nebo is full of natural caves. It's a logistical long shot anyway. One prophet dragging a massive gold chest up a mountain during a siege.
Right. And then there's the elephantine theory.
The idea that Jewish priests took it to an island in the Nile where we know there was a Jewish temple. But scholars pretty much dismiss this as bold speculation. There's just no evidence.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. Option 1, it was destroyed by the Babylonians, melted down, and nobody wrote it down. 2, it's in a cave on Mount Nebo. 3, it's in Ethiopia. Or 4, it's sitting in a stone chamber right under the Dome of the Rock.
If you look at all the evidence, the scripture mentioning it right up until the end, its absence from the loot lists and Rittmeyer's architectural evidence, the Temple Mount theory seems the most plausible. It just explains why it vanished without a trace.
It's maddeningly close, yet completely inaccessible.
And maybe that's the point.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's this fascinating text called the Treatise of the Vessels, translated in 2014. It claims the treasures were concealed and recorded on a bronze tablet, like the copper scroll from the Dead Sea.
A treasure map.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But the text says the location shall not be revealed until the day of the coming of the Messiah.
So put down the shovels.
Precisely. It suggests finding the Ark isn't an archaeological task, but an eschatological one. It's tied to the end of history, not the History Channel.
That's a heavy thought. It shifts the focus from where is the box to what does the box represent.
Exactly. For the Israelites, it was the footprint of God on earth. And our fascination with it, why we make movies about it, why we're talking about it now, is because we're obsessed with finding a tangible link to the divine.
Although, as the guys at Beth Shemesh found out, maybe don't actually touch it.
Yay, right. Good point.
Mm.
Look with your eyes, not your hands. Or better yet, maybe just let it stay hidden. Some mysteries keep the world magical because they stay unsolved.
That's a perfect place to wrap this up. Whether it's under a golden dome, in an Ethiopian chapel, or lost to time, the Ark remains the ultimate deep dive.
Indeed.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Let us know where you think it is. Until next time, keep digging.